It's 5 a.m. somewhere, so that means the garbage collectors are coming to take out the trash. But we won't throw you out.
Welcome to Your Trash Pals podcast, coming to you live from Benjamin Franklin's bathtub water. We're just soaking up that founding father energy. We're in the grime, we're in the murk as
Oh
he is
no.
shampooing his hair. We were talking about Benjamin Franklin before the pod, if you couldn't
We were.
tell. Pansexual icon, nasty pansexual icon. Uh, you aren't here for founding father fun facts. You're here for a podcast about comics, art, culture, and whatever little bits of trash we found while picking through the garbage bin. And I'm Vannotes.
And I'm Wren. This is me picking through. This is a visual
Just
representation.
a visual representation of you just getting your little paws into all the
Yeah,
trash
my
and
little
pulling
hands.
it out.
If I don't hold down my laptop, it's forehead only. So I have to keep adjusting it. Um
I I don't know what physics is causing that to happen, but I choose to believe
yeah,
that
it's
physics is involved.
I'm sure it's physics. I have it's like on my lap on a pillow. So it's just doing its thing. It's doing this little laptop thing. Um, so Van, I told you before the pod started that I finally caught up on Drag Race, and that is a fact. I have finally caught up on Drag Race, and I have lots of opinions, lots of thoughts, and I wanted to say them before we got into the nitty gritty of everything. Um,
Oh yes. Drop them on me. Drop this truly um charisma. Drop your charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent on me, Ren. Just let it all dump onto me.
dumb.
Tell me the hot goss.
Okay, so I finally learned who Plain Jane was, and when everybody was like, "Oh, Plain Jane," I was like, Plain Jane, not like air fucking plane Jane. So like it's like an airplane. I was like, "What the hell?" I was so confused because I was expecting like, oh, maybe her drag is really low key, and everybody's really mad about her drag being low key because she's plain Jane. Not that she's a fucking airplane. Um, but then I learned
Does
she's
she do plane things every time? Like
no,
flight
no, no,
attendant?
no, no, zero
Okay.
plane activities. I just keep calling her an airplane.
Oh.
Um, she's very cunty, very cunty. I'm like, girl, play nice, please. I'm begging you. I'm begging you. Be nice. Um, and because she was so mean to another drag queen called a mandatory meeting, and I really liked a mandatory. I thought that was a funny name, and while her makeup was not good, um, she sure had a lot of cunt energy. I was really like, oh, I can't say that on Twitch. I keep saying it, but I hopefully we won't get in trouble. Dear Mr.
Shadow
Twitch,
banned. Shadow
I'm
banned for life.
don't shout at me. I'm just dumb. I'm just dumb. Don't do it. I'm just forgetful. But anyway, I really like Nymphia Wind. She's from Taiwan. I really enjoy her banana themed antics. I feel like Plasma was robbed. Those are my that's my like I think about it and then thinking about it some more. Wrong, and other people have different opinions. It doesn't matter. I'm right. So at the end of the
Doesn't
day,
matter what Miss doesn't matter what Michelle Visage says, no matter what Ross Matthews says,
mhm,
no matter what Carson Kressley says, no matter what RuPaul says, you are right.
exactly. At the end of the day, I'm right. So uh, that's that's how I'm choosing to live my life regarding RuPaul's Drag Race. But I had been binging it, and I've been watching on MTV, but I can't see the past seasons, and I'm annoyed with that because I'm like there's like a gap of like 5 seasons I haven't seen, and I want to see them, but they make it so hard
For some reason,
to be informed.
they don't want us to watch this show.
I know. It's so crazy. I'm like, why are you making it so hard for me to watch RuPaul's Drag Race? Who hurt you? Who did this? Who did this to you?
Which execs at Viacom were just like, RuPaul's done us dirty. We must bury the show.
Honestly. Un slay. That's a taste of my British
Or
accent right there.
oh, wow.
It just comes out. It just jumps out. The British in me jumps out sometimes.
Do you have you like 23'd and mead and like
No.
figured out that you're wildly British? There was a
No.
shocking documentary where you found out you were 75% British.
When the Human Genome Project was happening, my sister was at Harvard. So my dad had access and was like able to do it. And I don't think that we have much British in us. It's mostly Greek and Ethiopian, as if I remember correctly.
Oh.
Yeah. But I did recently remember, or I guess not even remember, realize I am 1/8, at minimum, 1/8 white person. So jot that down, America. You know, I have 1/8 of a like a MAGA hat or whatever. I am entitled to
One
1/8 of a MAGA hat.
just half of a letter, just like half the G.
Exactly. If it's the M, I'll
Do
flip it upside
you
down for Wren. I'm a crafty queen.
I mean, you could now say don't disrespect my white heritage in like different contexts.
Right? I need to find out what kind of white person. It's my great grandfather on my mom's side. I don't know
Oh,
like
okay.
what like brand of white guy he was. If he was, I hope he was Italian because I know a lot of Italian people, and everybody else is Italian but me, and I want to be Italian too. Everyone is Italian.
I like that you're trying to like brand yourself as your 1/8 white is a spicy white.
I know, right? I'm hoping that's my goal. But I have no idea. Nobody knows. It just like dawned on me the other day because I was talking to my mom, and my grandmother is really fair skinned, and I was like, "Oh, like great grandpa or great grandfather or whatever," and she was like, "Yeah, he was a white guy," and I was like, "Huh? What? Huh?" And she was like, "What? What do you think? How do you think like?" The colors work. I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm not a genealogist. I just things just happen. I have no idea. So that's my fun little aside before we get in the trash. I'm caught up on Drag Race and I'm 1/8 white. Those are the takeaways.
I'm so excited to celebrate both of these aspects of you. We also I shared that article with you that was in the New Yorker all about
Yes.
this woman who claimed indigenous identity largely because of this like supposition of her mother that like
Mhm.
they were indigenous in some way, and then she built an entire career on it and then found out like later, not there's no like clear point at like when she found out. It looks like it was kind of a succession of like omissions on her part, like
Mhm.
where she was like kind of, I don't think like feigning ignorance, but like choosing to be
Yeah.
ignorant rather than investigating and then it catching up with her eventually. But I keep thinking about like how if you built your identity around something like your family members told you when you were really young and then it all just was a lie. Like,
Honestly, like I was reading that article and this is a bit of a self-report, but it made me think about when I was like a little kid and like the Chavers last name is connected to the Lumbee Native Americans in South Carolina or in the
mm,
Carolinas. And I don't have any significant like Lumbee heritage. It's just like is connected to my last name. But I was so like I was like, oh yeah, I'm whatever Native American, like just claiming this without having any. I was the woman in the article, but I was like 7. So it was like cute and dumb instead of like damaging.
Yeah, you did not found an academic career and center yourself in conversations as a
No.
7-year-old.
No. Like reading that article and then her her partner ending up being a sex pest. I'm like, geez Louise, lady. You.
Just to
Yikes.
continuously like,
Lapse
yeah,
in
and
judgment.
whenever those articles come out, it's always like this strange nebulous affair of like, how much did they know? How much did they not know?
Mhm.
And like really is like readers of an article is like, I have no like judgment on this human being whose life, like,
Is
it's not
exploding in
like I
front of
know
me.
her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like it's not like I need to have a hot take on this human being. Anyway, that article was super fascinating. I'm
It was
trying to think if
crazy.
there's like any weird childhood stories that I would base an identity around. Um,
Were you ever like a weeb and were like, oh, like, maybe I knew this girl in my this girl who's not me, I will say. This girl in my middle school who was like, "Oh, like hypothetically I could be Asian because like my last name her last name was something like long or something like that and it was like both like a just like a it could be an Asian last name, but it also could
mhm.
be not. And she was like, "Well, it could be. Like it could be I could be Asian based on my last name." And I was like, "I don't really think that it works like that, girl, but like
Oh
hey,
no.
okay." Ah! Just just hiding from her and her thoughts. I don't know what happened to her, but I hope she's okay.
Now that I'm thinking about it, there is like family lore that like one side of the family was like Polish Jews that I don't think has ever been substantiated, but
Oh,
like some family members were like throwing it around. So it would be like if I was 6 years old and my parents were like, "You're Jewish." And then I just like as an adult was like, but I guess that's also like a religious identity, and that's
right,
something you
yeah.
can have separate than like an ethnic identity. uh like if it was all of a sudden like, oh, I don't have Jewish ancestry, like at that point I would probably just be like in the community.
Right? Yeah, yeah. Like I truly I feel for this lady because I can't imagine like I cannot imagine I finding out that I am not this identity. And she even in the article she didn't really find out until she was older, like at minimum, like at least out of her
Mhm.
teens, and that's it's already too late. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like when your entire academic career is like based around an identity that is not yours, that would be like, yeah, just totally wild to me.
Yeah,
I
honestly.
guess my we didn't say our opening question out loud of what trash are you consuming. I assumed RuPaul's Drag Race was yours.
Yes, let's say that because I'm that's all I've been consuming.
I watched Deadpool 1 and 2. That was my trash.
I love the Deadpool movies. I won't lie. I'm a fan of them.
I very much enjoyed myself. I had a wonderful time watching the Deadpools, but I do believe they're trash. I think they're Rick and Morty humor, like Peacemaker. Like they have an aura of trash. Like I don't think the
Yeah,
actual products themselves are like, I think Deadpool 1 and 2 are both very well constructed films. They have like sets, which I was
hmm
fascinated by. I hadn't seen a superhero movie that wasn't just like generic city in ages.
hmm
Like the climax of Deadpool 2 in that like boarding school was super like
yeah.
great.
A lot of good hard
Scooter-
work was put into it. So it's not like traditional trash, but it is the people that it like the people that like Deadpool, myself excluded, because I'm a perfect human being. But they can be a little cringe, a little cringy, a little
I
Rick and Morty, Rick and Morty.
it is also like Invader Zim. Like, even if
Yes.
you enjoy Invader Zim yourself, like sometimes it's just like, I don't know if I like the company I'm in.
Yes, exactly. It is very much like that. It's like enjoying Tokyo Pop in 2007.
Yes, that's exactly what watching Deadpool in 2024 is like. Good
It's
old Hot Topic Tokyo Pop vibe.
I'm like, do the kids know what Tokyo Pop is? Do the kids know about Amera manga, Amera manga? Are they aware?
I Amerimanga is it dead? Is it just like we all draw like webtoons
Yeah, pretty
now?
much.
Like,
Yeah. I'm working on a secret soon to come out eventually, a webtoon. And I'm
oh,
like, yeah, I guess this is Amera manga. I guess this is Amera, whatever.
I guess this is Amera whatever.
Exactly. It's American made. It's a Ford F-150.
Benjamin Franklin would be proud.
If my comic comes out and it is a Ford F-150, I'm deleting it from the internet. It's not gonna. I can't live with that. It needs to
The
be some
metaphor
kind
is
of
wild.
look. I don't know what to tell you. If my comic's not at least like a Volkswagen Beetle, a Volkswagen Dune Beetle, or some kind of like niche Mitsubishi from like the 1980s that's shaped like a cereal box, then I don't want to talk to anybody. I can't live with a Ford F-150. I just can't do it.
To really just drive this metaphor into the ground, you mean your Amerimanga webtoon won't have truck nuts?
It will not. Though I do have croc nuts for my Disney Cars themed
Oh,
Crocs.
oh,
Oh, I don't
oh,
wear them.
that's
They're for
bad.
decorative purposes only. They were a gift. I love
They're for
them.
display.
They're for display. I love my Crocs. I look like an idiot in them, but I love them.
Everyone in my family started giving me a hard time and saying like I hated Crocs, and I, in response, I was like, I have 3 pairs of Crocs. This I'm not a hater. I just think Crocs have a time and place.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm couldn't whip out my cars with Lightning McQueen Crocs on campus. Absolutely not. No way.
There is a matter of having some class. Some
Mhm.
class.
Even though they're comfortable as all get out, as anything. They're so comfortable and then they're so easy to take off and you can just not have on shoes and that is the ideal state. I'm not one of those like
Yeah.
barefoot is legal people, but I am definitely a I don't want to be wearing shoes person.
You didn't walk around the streets of New York just in your bare feet, just like being like, I'm a quirky little creature.
I didn't even wear sandals in New York because I was like, it's too dirty, it's too filthy. Can't have the dogs out, can't have my toes out in New York City. Some kind of critter would come up and lick them. It would be too much. It's too New York is too weird.
It's a hard place for a foot freak. You got to go to LA.
I'm sure LA people are just I there's a couple who are in some westward state and they cut the bottoms out of their shoes so they can be barefoot.
Oh no.
Oh yes.
Oh no.
That's like a real
This is
thing.
it's not the content I crave. Absolutely not.
They're
You
doing
know
it.
what I do crave?
What?
Opening
Tell
up
me.
Jigsaw's junk drawer.
Jigsaw, jigsaw, jigsaw. Excellent segue. Perfect segue.
For the listeners at home, Jigsaw's junk drawer is when I pull out a sadistic little conversational game from my metaphorical junk drawer. And, you never know what I'm going to pull out of there. And this time it is a game of Your Pal's Trash, which is where we try to guess each other's favorite something or others, or guess each other's
Oh.
answers. So
Ooh.
we played this on my game with Madeline McGrain, but this is a little friend quiz to see how well we know each other. So this one is a music edition because this episode will eventually be about the country music.
Mm-hmm.
And I, yeah, have a list of musical genres here. And I think I know you well enough to guess some of these, but maybe not. Maybe I don't know what your favorite of these would be at all.
I'm
So
tough
that
with
is
music, so I'm excited to see how you fare.
how I fare against you and you against me.
Yes, I know I'm gonna do
So
a
let
terrible
us.
job, but I'm excited.
This is how we learn about each other, is being wrong sometimes.
It's true. It's true.
So okay, music edition of Your Pal's Trash. Me and Wren. Uh, First one up is favorite, and this could be like individual, group, band, super group, you know, whatever music act you want to choose. Uh, what we think each other's a favorite rock and roll act is. I feel like you might actually know this one about me
I
pretty
don't think I
easily.
do. I'm just,
Your internet cut out for me for a half second.
oh no,
Could you
I was
repeat?
yeah, I was just saying. I don't know, so we'll see.
This one is hard for me too because I don't know what kind of rock and roller you are. I don't know what your vibe is. And I feel like I should go classic in some ways. Like I feel like dad rock or yacht rock is the way to go with you. Uh,
Interesting. Interesting.
so if I'm to choose, you know what? I'm gonna go left field. I'm gonna
Hmm.
say it's unpopular in 2024 to like this, but maybe you had an across the universe phase, and I'll just throw out the Beatles.
That's so funny. I famously dislike the Beatles.
I knew it was a 50-50 chance. Like I knew I was
I'm
playing with fire.
Yeah, I honestly, it's funny because I was like trying to think like for Chase. I'm like, what could it be? The Beatles came up in my head, but I was like, I think when I look at you, I see a lot of classic rock, but I can't name a single rock band.
They're like Chicago, Journey.
Yeah, honestly, I'm like one of them guys, some guy with long hair singing about something or other. Um, I I want to say for you, I want to say honestly, I will go back. I will say Journey.
Mm-mm,
No,
mm-mm.
what is yours? I'm so
It,
curious.
it it's kind of anti-Journey. I'm really lucky because the poster I have is like on this wall that's like not on
Oh,
camera. I thought
uh-huh.
about that. And I do consider Prince to sometimes people like Prince's pop, sometimes people would say I don't know, Prince had a lot of evolutions, but I would
Yeah,
say just due to the amount of guitar that Prince was largely a rock star in a
interesting. That's
way.
very interesting.
But yeah, Prince is far and away like
I love
up
Prince.
here.
If Prince counts as rock, then Prince is also my favorite. But I I
What
don't
was your
like
first thought?
my first thought for me for my little musical likings. I don't know. I would have to say I'm like scrolling through the discography in my head because I just don't have an answer. I have no idea. I don't listen to a lot of rock music, but when I do, it's like weird rock music. It's like obscure. So it's like mixed with dubstep or it's like I'm a little dubstep freak. What can I say? I love a good little bass drop. Even though for years I thought it
Like
was like the fish. I am a Deadpool. I'm a little Deadpool guy. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I like that band who did that song. I believe in a thing called Love. Who are they? Do you know who I'm talking about?
like I would do anything
No,
for
no, no,
love.
no.
No, not Meatloaf.
Meatloaf. Um,
Not Meatloaf.
I believe in a thing called Love. The Darkness. I think that
Okay.
is like I like that kind of rock, which if I do listen to like, which I guess is like closer to classic rock. Um, if I do listen to rock music. But this is very interesting. This game is very interesting because one of the questions I have for you when we get into country music is like, what are these definitions of genre? Like, where are these
Oh yeah.
lines? Like you were saying with Prince being like, oh, there's a lot of guitar, so he falls into rock. But I always thought of Prince as much more like in the pop zone. Like if I were
Mm-hmm.
to distill all of his eras, but I do understand why you would say rock for Prince. It makes a lot of sense. Anyway, the point is,
I also
I'm sorry. Go on.
Oh, I was gonna say I do occasionally like have a like very strong like when the summer rolls around, I get very into like Woodstock era like
Oh
rock
yeah.
of just like going hard into like Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix and like being one of those guys.
Hmm.
Jefferson Airplane. I'll
Oh
just
yeah,
become
yeah.
a like I'll just go totally like hippie, man. Like
You know, what? I
just
think I also like a rock that's influenced by funk music and a lot, not
mm,
like PH, not funk, but like funk, like the Brothers Johnson and stuff like that. I enjoy their music.
mhm,
Um, Strawberry Letter 23 was one of my favorite songs when I was a kid.
mm.
It plays in my mind. And oh, the
Okay.
song with the cake
Oh,
in the rain. I also like that group. You know who I'm talking about?
the
It's a
the
bunch of
cake in the rain.
yeah, it's a bunch of like it's like something about a garden or MacArthur Park or something like that. Do you know
I
what I'm talking
really
about?
can't isolate what you're thinking of, but
Oh, it'll come to me and then I'll say it.
it'll come to you. It'll come to you. Next one is Pop Act.
Ooh.
Who who's the top of pop for you?
Hmm.
Which pop? Again, a very nebulous genre of just whatever everyone thinks is popular.
Honestly. Say I feel like you're a secret Swift.
A secret Swiftie?
Mhm.
It's not very secret. I it's kind of like I'm a Swiftie out of um it's like people who are like I'm culturally a Swiftie or like um like I'm not a
That's so funny.
practicing I'm a
Mhm.
I'm a lapsed Swiftie. Like every
Mm.
time like she comes out with a new album, it's like yes, I'm here again. And then uh it's like uh people who struggle going to church like more than like two services a year where it's like I don't know about all these people here like
That's so funny. I see that. I'm like bringing up my YouTube music because I'm like, what do I listen to? So I can have an answer for when.
what is music?
Girl, I
Just
wish I.
nightcore remixes on shuffle.
So funny. I was listening to a lot of T Pain recently. T Pain's cover of War Pigs specifically. I have a really eclectic
You
musical
probably
taste.
I see you're very eclectic, very quirky.
I'm a little
um
quirky guy.
I, I think overall I would say I would like to be a Beyonce like as my favorite pop act, but I am in fact a Swiftie like when it comes down to it. I don't understand the sacred numerals of the Swifties. I don't know
That's
their Da
funny.
Vinci Code.
Hmm.
I'm guessing Beyonce would be your top pop
Yeah,
act.
I'm a Beyonce head, as it were. Um, a Bay Once fan. I really do enjoy her work quite a bit, and I really like. I feel like I liked Beyonce because I felt like I was culturally mandated to, and then, um, like as she sort of explored other genres and like explored sort of moving out of traditional pop, or traditional like R&B pop, I began to like her more and more and more. Um, I really am. I think Beyonce is so beautiful. She's my celebrity, not even my celebrity crush. I'm not even on the same like universal plane to have a crush on Beyonce. You know what I mean? Like she's like over there and I am but a lowly worm. Like it's like a cat having a crush on like a human man. It just doesn't make any sense.
I've always said, and many people have gotten into verbal spars with me over this who are huge Beyonce fans. But
Mhm.
I've made the assertion several times that Beyonce would be a terrible dinner party guest. Like one of the people who would just be like awful to have at a dinner party, like not any fault of their own, but just like everyone would not be able to stop like paying attention to them. They would be uncomfortable. The rest of the people there would be uncomfortable. No
I
one would
agree.
know what to talk about like with that person. Like
Yeah. I feel like she's so far removed from normal reality. And even when we see her like do things and have fun, and I have to say, like the way she has to be so guarded with her personal life, like as a celebrity, I'm very like, and good for her. Like
yeah.
you hear very like nothing about what Beyonce is doing until she like drops an album and then disappears again. And I'm like, and good for her because we shouldn't know about it. Like we shouldn't, if she doesn't want us to know about it, we should know nothing. We should know nothing at all. And I wish her only the best, and I hope her daughter, I like sincerely and with all of my heart and hope that people stop being mean to her daughter. um because she's just a little guy, she's just a teenager and she's so pretty. And I remember people were so mean to her daughter when she was a baby
Oh.
because she looked like Jay-Z, and I'm like, that's her dad, she's gonna look like her dad. Like
She can't help it.
exactly. Like and like also like shut up. It's a baby. Like all babies look weird. All babies look
Yeah.
smushy and weird. It's just is. But yeah, I love Beyonce. The more I talk about Beyonce, the more I'm like I have a fanatical love of Beyonce. I have an abnormal Beyonce love. Um but it comes from a deep one-sided respect of Beyonce.
Okay. Next is rapper. And this is
Ooh.
a fraught one, I know, for both of us.
I feel like you would like. For some reason, I'm getting Chance the Rapper. He just loves his
It
wife.
is it is the mid going to college in the Midwest vibe. Um in the mid 2000s or
Yes,
2010s.
I
I
think.
have been to a Chance the Rapper concert.
Oh,
It's
really?
true. Yeah, he came to Idaho, and that was a very interesting crowd.
That's so funny. I'm sure all the black people in Idaho showed up, and all five of
Yeah,
them
yeah,
had a really good time.
they did. And then there was a bunch of bros and teens.
That's so
So
funny.
it was a very interesting crowd. Oh, and stoners. There was some stoners there.
That's so funny. Yeah. I do like Chance the Rapper. I like his album. The album I like the most is the one where he's just talking about how much he loves his wife. I really enjoyed that album. I just thought that was really cute.
I to I'm gonna expose both of us.
Hmm.
I I would have to say Kanye. even though we try to bury it.
Oh yeah, I knew that you were. Yes, I. It is. So it's hard because if you were to ask me a decade ago who my favorite rapper,
Yes.
who my favorite musical artist was, besides Beyonce, who I worship, it would be Kanye for sure, easily. Now I would say I don't think that this kind of music I like really meshes with the kind of music Kanye is making right now.
Hmm.
I think that I'm and putting aside his anti-Semitism and his idiocy and his clearly needing to like get some help, all of that aside, um, I just think I'm just a different person now. I'm just a different guy. Uh, I've been listening to a lot of Tyler the Creator, and that has been kind of like where I'm
That
at right
track.
now. Yeah.
I would say my post Kanye, the like the unacceptability of like endorsing Kanye
Mhm.
would make me like say Childish Gambino is
Mm.
probably like up there in like my favorite rappers.
Mhm.
You and Lizzo doesn't rap much anymore. That's a very
No.
interesting shift because when I saw her and like when around in Minneapolis, like she was not a pop act. She was not a singer. She was a rapper.
Really? That's
So
so
that
interesting.
was yeah, like her what is it? Something is it Lizzo Bangers or that album
Mhm.
that like predated her like poppy stuff. Like she was exclusively a rapper.
Mm.
So
I
um
miss Lizzo. I'll be the first to say it. Um, like, okay, and this is where I become problematic, but like, I get it. She said some weird shit to her backup dancers, and that should not be tolerated by any like employer employee. That's totally inappropriate. But like, there's so many dudes saying all kinds of weird, fucked up shit and doing weird, fucked up shit, and nothing happens. And I like Lizzo, and I like the representation that Lizzo gives. I like her voice. I think she's fun, and I think that me being like a fat person, seeing another fat person being like, oh, okay, like I can be sexy, like that is huge. So I'm gonna
yeah.
continue to support Lizzo, and I like Lizzo. So Lizzo, if you're listening to this, like what's good? I'm out here fighting the good fight. I'm a Lizzo stan.
Tomorrow's article, Lizzo hates babies or
Oh,
something like
oh,
that. Or just
I'm like,
like
oh, Lizzo, I just spoke so well of you.
that'd be the funniest article. Like just Lizzo hates babies, thinks they're
She just
dumb.
hates them. She thinks they're so stupid. And it's like, yeah, duh. They are babies.
It's so hard when you are like looking at an artist and the line between like which this is like art versus the artist arguments are always like they were the most boring arguments in like all of art school.
Hmm.
uh
Hmm.
but it really is hard like because there's a line of like how I used to really enjoy Michael Jackson, and then I watched the like
Yep.
Neverland documentary, and it was like, no, like that person is a despite all of his contributions to the world is a monster, like
Hmm.
is a monstrous
Bad
human.
person. Yeah.
And yeah, and did premeditated like terrible acts to children.
Hmm.
And that's such a and the spectrum of like I don't know celebrities and artists and like the things they do like are they just a like sucky person or are they like a monster? Like
Yeah.
that's it's such a wild thing.
Yeah. I think like it's really difficult, and especially like with I think Kanye is definitely a special case because mental illness comes into play, and it's like just how much of it, like, something I strongly believe is like you're always like even if you're not in control, you are responsible for the consequences of your actions. And
Mhm.
like just the shit he says and the way he and like I think a lot of his fans are like, "Oh, that's so," he says like he's whatever. He's saying some crazy stuff, but we love his music. But then there are like the people who are listening who are already on the path of radicalization who become further radicalized because their favorite musical
Yeah.
artist is saying these kinds of things. And it's like, where is the responsibility? You know what I mean? Like, it's just messy.
Where?
It's just so
Okay, and this is our transition final one.
mm.
Who is your favorite country act or singer or group?
Oh,
A
you
very
already know mine.
Do I?
You do,
Is
but
it
you just
Dolly?
don't think you do. No, it's not Dolly, but I do
Oh,
like Dolly
oh.
Parton.
I
Is yours?
just assumed Dolly.
I do like Dolly Parton a lot. I am a fan, but I Beyonce started making country music, so I don't know. I don't know what people expect of me.
Rock, Beyonce, pop, Beyonce, rap, Beyonce.
I do love Beyonce. She's just so talented. I've been like honestly, I've been listening to 16 carriages like over and over, and I'm like, yeah, like 16 carriages. Like, oh my god, it's just so good. The other
16 whole carriages.
16 whole carriages. The other one I don't remember the name of, but it reminds me of like some kind of like dance, like square dancing song. So I'm like truly go off Beyonce, but I enjoy 16 carriages more. But anyway,
It
yeah.
is the
Go on.
term is line dancing for
Yes,
that kind of
line dancing. I'm like, I don't know what y'all do. Some kind of geographic, was it not geographic? Geno- ge-
geometric.
geometric. I'm like geometry. Um, yeah, so too, but the rest of me, the 7/8 hen.
So let's dive into our conversation about country music.
Oh wait, I
So
didn't guess for you.
oh, go ahead.
I thought it was Casey Musgraves.
I do love Casey Musgraves, and she's definitely like of the contemporary like country acts up here.
Mm-hmm.
But I love Johnny Cash.
Oh, mm-hmm.
I adore Johnny Cash.
I also like Johnny Cash.
No, no questions. So I gave you homework for this
You did.
episode.
Yes.
I gave you 4 albums. Uh, I will recite them here for the audience at home. So I assigned you, just to give you, this was like a sampler plate of like country and like different eras and vibes. So I assigned you Ray Charles, Modern Sounds of Country and Western Music, which is like crossover hit. Like I
Mm-hmm.
forget like popular music before like the Beatles and like rock and roll was like big band. And that's what like everyone listened to. And
Mm-hmm.
so like Ray Charles and his like big band vibes doing a bunch of country songs was like a crossover like hit. Every time I listen to that album, I'm always like, oh yeah, this is country and this was like 1960s pop, which is wild.
Mm-hmm.
Then also Johnny Cash's live album at Folsom Prison, which is a combo of 2 recordings from like 2 concerts that were done like in the same day at Folsom Prison. Loretta Lynn's Van Lear Rose, which was her collaboration with. Do you know who this collaboration was with for that album?
I don't remember, but I do remember I liked it.
Jack White from the White Stripes. He was the producer on it.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's where that vibe comes from. And then Casey
Okay.
Musgrave's first album, even though she was like a very huge like country songwriter,
Mm-hmm.
same trailer, different park. She was a like huge Everyone like wanted her to write songs for them, and then she came out with Same Trailer, Different Park. So
Mhm.
that was my like kind of like tour around country music for you.
I enjoyed it. I
And
really did. Oh, sorry. Go on.
I didn't know if you had any familiarity with like country music before this.
No, like growing up, I definitely was one of those kids who was like, "Oh, I like everything but country." Um, just because the country music I had listened to before was like Garth Brooks and
Mm.
Garth Brooks and like just Garth Brooks. And I did like the Dixie Chicks. I thought that they were pretty cool. Um, but it just like didn't catch me, and it was the Garth Brooks, the country music that I would hear would be so like, and I love my truck, and I love my beer, and I hate my wife, and that, and I'm like, okay, well, all right, I can hear that anywhere, um, and yeah, because I think like country music is so like it has to be a different experience for you living in the Midwest to me living in the near South. Um, it just has like I feel like the country music in the South is the specifically the white country music in the South is so much more like try that in a small town esque. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
that song.
Yeah.
Um, it's just I just didn't like it. And the people that around me that listen to country music were like the people who would wear like camo wedding dresses, and I'm morally opposed to that. I'm like, look, hey, you know,
You shouldn't
you
have to hide at your wedding.
exactly.
Shouldn't have to be invisible.
That's what
Shouldn't
I'm
have to
saying.
blend in with the trees.
Or they wear like orange and camo, and I'm like, that's even worse. That's just honestly, that's some freak shit. I'll say it here first. Freak behavior wearing camouflage and orange dress to your wedding. Like, this is a huge aside, but your wedding is supposed to be like you're supposed to look and feel your best. You're supposed to look and feel how like it's so beautiful and whatever, and I get it, everybody has their own definitions of beauty, but that camouflage and orange is in nobody's definition of beauty. It isn't everybody's definition of ugly. I hate it so much. I hate it so much. Oh my god. um but country music, yeah, so the people that like around me that listened to it just were like weird, and or were like really popular, and I was busy being really emo, so I had I had other things on my plate. But I really enjoyed this little sampler platter. I really really like the Van Leer Rose one. I almost said at Van Leer Rose, but I do like the White Stripes quite a bit. So that made sense why I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I no, I tried to choose like because country music is like when you were talking about genre, it is like so amorphous and it like
Mhm,
kind of it continuously like reinvents itself, but like the theme is always like rural. Like
mhm,
and there's often I think, and there's, if you want to watch the whole Ken Burns documentary series about country music, it is really good.
oh, okay.
But it is like I love Ken Burns documentaries, especially while drawing. And the
Mhm,
country music one is one of the best ones, I think, along with the Civil War one. I mean, they're both really high up there.
mhm,
If you like um, the Coyote Man just narrating over scrolling pictures. But uh yeah, country music like it comes out of just like whatever the sound of like people living out in the country or out in the boonies is, and then it
mhm,
gets kind of co-opted. And the one I think the one thing country music is unique in that it raises within American culture continuously is it and this isn't like people don't like to talk about this, but that like co-opting of like rurality is really tied in with like how the United States' pop culture is solely devoted to like minstrel shows, which
Mhm.
is just the wildest fact that we never acknowledge. It's like all of our pop culture, whether it's like Mickey Mouse, whether it's the Muppets, like all the vaudeville stuff, like all the popular music that we've listened to, like it all originates in this country from minstrel shows, and that also in country music, like the vibe of like, oh, we are like white folks of like an upper class, and we're going to co-opt the sounds of like rural people no matter what race they are. uh
Mhm.
it's it's like intrinsic to country music, and it continues, and then it like finds rural people, like the industry of country music like finds people like, I don't know if Taylor Swift was technically like working poor, like her family came from a working class, but they like pluck up Taylor Swift. Dolly Parton like comes from a super poor background. Loretta Lynn, like these people who have the sound, and then it's just like commercialized. Or like you get like Charlie Pride, who was a black like country music singer. Or
Mhm.
anyway, that it's just like this very interesting. There's like a machine of country music, and then there's the people who are actually singing it, and it's a very like interesting relationship.
Yeah. I've noticed that there is like that huge dichotomy between like the I love fucking my truck country music and like the true sounds of like the American people country music. And it's just really interesting. Like I it this has made me want to like get a bit more into country, like just see what else is there like to see. You know, I'm like, oh, I had like a little sample. I want to see. I feel like I'm a teenager and I just kissed a girl for the first time and now I'm like, oh, like what's out there? Whoa.
Have you listened to like Orville Peck? He's probably the most like famous contemporary like queer country singer.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I was like, why does that name sound so familiar? And it's because his background is so funny to me that he's a South African in Canada singing like American country music, which is so funny to me. I'm like, pick a struggle. That's such a funny combination of things. And I love his masks. He was on Drag Race.
Oh yeah, he's always somewhere where the gays are.
Is he gay?
Oh, he's super queer. Like
Oh, I didn't
his
know.
his people like traced back like one of his first like public images. I think he was in like a noise band or something before, but he was like, I can't remember if he was full frontal in Butt magazine, which was like a big queer like sex like magazine that was like a
Mhm.
little arty but was like really raunchy. It was where I first read the article about the sex life of a guy who didn't bathe in like Europe or whatever.
I mean, Van.
uh
Oh, I lost you for a second.
oh, I
No.
was just saying Butt magazine is where I first learned the tale of a man who didn't bathe ever and his wild sex life and how into it people were. That was the wildest part.
What? Please tell me more about
Anyway,
that. Because years ago during the pandemic, Veronica, friend of the show, Veronica Agrawal, sent me a link to a Reddit post where this guy just didn't shower the whole like pandemic or whatever, and his like skin was like peeling off, and this is so gross. Gross warning, huge gross warning. So like skip ahead like 10 seconds if you don't want to hear something gross. Um but like he took a picture of like his like some skin had peeled off and it looked like macaroni and cheese. I was like, what am I looking at? It looked like a slice of like home cooked macaroni and cheese. It was
I
so,
just did you see me just like scratch my skin like
oh yeah.
instinctively like ugh.
And I'm like, people are having sex with macaroni and cheese. It's too much.
This guy, it was really interesting. He was like, he looked down on people who would like not shower for like a week and like wanted to like experience the like nasty lifestyle. And then he was like, and then they'll just take a shower like at the end of the week. And that's like they were total posers. Like that
That's
was the
so
like
funny.
best thing. But yeah, no, I'd say like Orville Peck, the gays love Orville Peck. They love Casey Musgraves, who isn't like, I don't think like on the record, but like has like incorporated a lot of like explicitly like queer affirming messages into her music. And so the gays all just adore her. It's kind of like how Dolly Parton just like attracted the gays, but like she wouldn't wait it for like ever and ever. Whereas Casey Musgraves like openly like embraced like, you know, Follow Your Arrow like explicitly was like one of the first country music songs to like be a gay and it's okay. Like so. But yeah.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I had a couple questions when I was listening to this that I
Yes.
wanted to ask you. And we got into it a little bit, but not so much in detail. But like, I'm so curious with country music, and we talked about the art versus the artist a little bit, but with country music, how much of it comes into like the like commercialized, like I love my truck and I hate black people and that kind of like xenophobic kind of branding. How much of it do you feel like is tied into country music and how much of it is just like, you know, like with Rick and Morty, there are people who just gravitate towards that kind of thing and then bring that into the culture? Is it something that you think like is started in country music or is just something that has been brought into country music?
That's like a really I think country is so bizarre because it continuously like brings things in and then like pushes people out. Like and then there's I mean the authenticity arguments within country are like so wild and the people who like tend to skate by are like the least authentic, which is always really interesting. Like Beyonce, the reason we're talking about this is Beyonce like is going to be releasing a country album. And it's very like many people before have like released country albums and like coasted off the aesthetics. Like Gwyneth Paltrow, I know, like released a country album or something.
That's so funny.
And it is interesting because it's like a genre of music, right? Like it has its like specific like beats and things like that. It has specific like the songs are like meant to be like simple tunes, but you might have very like complex storytelling in them. Or like a lot of the songs are meant to have some storytelling element in some way, even if the story really sucks. But yeah, and it's also just such a like glom together genre of just like we're going to pull music from like black people, we're going to pull music from German immigrants, we're going to pull music from Irish immigrants, we're going to pull we're going to take music from like Mexico, we're going to take music from like all over and then glom it together like over 2 centuries. And then there's people who, I mean, pop country is a very different beast than, and the country music industry is, I think, a very different beast than the actual like people who perform country music and who write country music. And yeah, I think it's a very interesting thing where it's like, what if the Beastie Boys like took over and like ran like rap? Like
Yeah, that would honestly, that would be insane and not in a good
and
way.
you know, like it's like what I mean, because like the Beastie Boys are like they're I mean, you call them rap, right? Like, I mean, they are
Yeah,
operating within that genre,
they
but
are.
like they operate like they're outside the context of like rap, like their life experiences are
Mhm.
um that produce like most rap music. So
I saw them as like
yeah,
punk rap. Some in between pop punk and rap.
yeah, and as far as like xenophobia, um I think it's just something about like small town United States like culture to I think people in focusing on like their current surroundings often will like sacrifice a global perspective just because like if your entire world is like a small town and that's all you have like the mental energy and capacity and like your total understanding is within those confines, like to be thinking outside of that context is like hard. Like it burns up energy that like you don't have or whatever. And I xenophobia in the United States is just so
Rampant.
it's so complex. Like
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It's such a funny thing for like a country of mostly immigrants to be like, no, like, no thanks. You can't come here. I came here, but you can't come here. I'm like, girl, come on now. It's messy. It's very messy. But that's giving me a lot to chew on. Like, I when you were talking about the people who write country music and the people who perform it, do you feel like it is more like do you feel like country music has a lot of like industry plants?
yeah, yeah, 100%. Um and I the best example I can give of like what the country music industry like feels like
Mhm.
is like how Jeff Foxworthy and Larry the Cable Guy are just like middle class like dudes who've like co-opted like redneck culture and perform
That's
it
so funny.
constantly. Like
I
if
had
you see
no
Larry
idea
the
about that.
Cable Guy videos from like before he became Larry the Cable Guy, he's
Mhm.
just like some like dude comic. Like he's just doing like 80s comic comedian style stuff like on a stage in a shitty bar. But he found like the persona of Larry the Cable Guy, right? And that
Mhm.
became his whole shtick.
That's literally so crazy. I remember like growing up hearing him and like seeing him in the Cars movie and stuff and being like, yeah, I guess like whatever, and just taking it at face value.
Yeah. It's a very like goofy persona that's easy for him to put on at this point. So,
Mhm.
did you have any other questions on your list for me? Your list of notations?
I'm trying to check my list. I'm trying to be subtle about it, checking my list. But we ended up going over a lot of the stuff I wanted to talk about anyway. And I'm like, darn it, dang it, conversation, dang it, Van, and you and your wealth of knowledge. Who do you think you are?
Who do I think I am?
Who do you
Just a
think you are?
guy.
I don't know. You're just a guy standing in front of another guy and asking them to ask you questions about country music.
Barging in on me and my guitar.
So
In the
funny.
words of Rent.
Rent.
Uh I would say the Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison
Hmm.
album is one of my favorite albums of all time. I think it's like one of the best pieces of like live performance. His songwriting's incredible, or the songs he chooses to pick. The other thing about country music is that it's very dynastic. Um,
Mm,
like because Johnny Cash married June Carter, and the Carters were like a ridiculously famous country group before Johnny like married in. And then you have like Hank Williams and Hank Williams Jr. And then I know there's more like contemporary acts that are like kids of kids, right? Or like their uncle was someone. But it has kind of this like dynastic flavor that not all it's kind of like how reggae is like dominated by like Bob Marley's kids,
Hmm.
like just by like benefit of like being Bob Marley's kids. They like are just everyone's like you are reggae.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
And that happens in country music, I think, a lot too, where it's like you're country because you come from like the Carter Cash family. Or
Interesting. So, what are there like five big dynasties, or are there just like a bunch of big dynasties? Like, how would you break it down? What's the royalty of country music?
well, there's like, and it I don't know if the like current set has like fleshed out, but I mean the like the Carters and the Cashes, because like I mean like June Carter's parents were like at the very beginning of like recorded broad like country music, and
Hmm.
we're like going to like poor households and like collecting country music like from people who'd like learned it orally and were like notating it. And then Johnny and June Carter, or Johnny Cash and June Carter got together. And then I know Johnny Cash, their children, some of them went on to do like country, like extensively. You have like the Judds, Hank Williams, and like his like successors. And I'm trying to think. Those are like some of the main families, and then there's like some like other acts that are more like smaller, or like you have like one hit wonders essentially, who then have like kids who pop up years later, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's that person's kid. So
Mm-hmm. That's so interesting. I
do you want
also
to know my
want.
oh, go
Huh?
ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Your favorite
You
what?
no, you have a you had a question. This is a question and answer time.
Oh my goodness! But I want to know. I Now you've piqued my interest. I'm like, well, what is it?
Oh, do you know my favorite family connection to one of these country singers?
Oh no, what is it?
So Loretta Lynn used to
Hmm.
live up where I'm from, up in Washington. So, she lived there like because I think her husband was like in the timber industry or something, and this was like far northwest Washington. And Loretta actually came into the soda shop where my grandmother worked. Uh,
Oh,
and my grandmother served her soda pops.
oh,
At, and she did not like her husband at all and thought he was a piece of trash, which Loretta Lynn continuously sang about what a piece of trash her husband was. Uh,
that's so funny. That's so crazy. I didn't know you were from Washington. I thought you were all from Idaho.
so we came down to Idaho when I was in second grade. So I'm like I'm a transplant.
Oh.
Yeah, but my family's all like Dutch immigrants, and they all settled either in like Michigan near like
Mhm.
Zealand or like that area, or they settled out in Washington. They found just places. They didn't go to like California, or like they didn't go anywhere like nice and dry. They just were like, where is the wettest, dampest places with bodies of water that we can hang around and build canals or whatever. And they just went there when they came to the United States.
That's so
They
funny.
they could have changed it up, but they were like, no, we love the wet and the damp. So I come from like north of Seattle. There's a little Dutch
Oh,
town there called Linden. So
okay. A little van history. Sorry,
oh
my
yeah, a
dog is
little
like,
family history.
I love it. My dog has been crazy today. He has anytime I'm like doing something, he's like, attention, attention, attention. And then he'll get off the bed where I'm sitting and he can't get back up. Well, he can, but he chooses not to. He chooses to pretend like he can't get back up. And I'm like, sir, I am in the middle of something. He's just, he's a
Oh
very
Jake.
dramatic dog, my little guy. So you showed me some genre, or you talked a little bit about genre bending, and we talked about Prince and like rock and pop, and then we have Beyonce now doing some country. Do you feel like what is the best country crossover?
Beyonce's is like looking really promising because she comes from like country. Like she comes from
Mhm,
Texas. Like
mhm.
she knows what she's doing. She's more country than like most of these bozos from like Australia or whatever.
Bozos, honestly.
Um that's the thing is like there's a lot of posers in country and she is not. Like she's a genuine country gal.
Mhm,
I would say like honestly like that Ray Charles album is considered one of the like great crossover albums
mhm.
of
I can
like
see
country
why,
music
yeah.
where it's like yeah, it's not like my top favorite, but like at the time country music was like considered like it wasn't pop, it wasn't like you didn't listen to that like on the radio, or you would not hear country music at all except if you were like listening to like the Grand Old Opry or like some kind of like hillbilly affair, but it wasn't something like mass audiences would listen to in the United States.
Mhm.
So like as far as history goes, like that's one of the great country crossovers. I mean, Taylor Swift is like an incredible example of
Yeah,
a
exactly.
like I mean her first album, whenever she records the Taylor's version of it, is going to be really fascinating. Like does she pop it up, does she country it up, because she is like it's funny how country music has like totally disowned her when she like started there. And then I mean Little Nas X, like Old Town Road
Oh,
is
yeah, that was a banger.
like we now like he's gone like in so many different directions, but like Old Town Road is a country song.
Mhm.
No matter like how you want to like put it, like he recorded one of the most popular country songs of all time. Um, so
Sorry if you
those
can
are
hear
my
Jake in the background.
crossovers.
They're good crossovers. It honestly, this does make me wanna explore country more. It's, like, such an interesting and varied genre, and
Some
honestly, I've been giving it short shrift.
anything but country is always a wild like line, and it's very like there's a certain kind of country music I understand people are like reacting against when they say that. Like they are reacting against like the Toby Keiths and the
Yeah.
um like that vibe of human, and that kind of xenophobia and that kind of racism. But there's also like some really incredible stuff like that you don't want to discount.
Mhm.
Uh, like Johnny Cash, I would say like if you want to listen to like the saddest music of your entire life, um, listen to the American Recordings albums that he
Okay.
recorded like in his like twilight years,
Oh.
and they're these they're as sad as Jake sounds right now.
I know, he's not happy. We might have to close it a bit early so I can take him out. He's
Yeah,
very he's like, "Hey, come on, man."
but I'll just say like those albums are like a man contemplating his death and like singing about it.
Mhm,
It's really powerful music, especially when June Carter dies and he's singing those albums.
mhm.
They're they're devastating. I can't listen to them without like being prepared to
Crying.
cry.
Mhm.
Like so,
I have to
but
check
let's
it out.
wrap it up.
Yeah,
We've countryed it up. Jakey's sad thinking about the Johnny Cash albums.
he's so
So
sad.
let's wrap. So thank you to everyone for listening to our conversation about country music on Your Trash Pals. You can follow the podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Our live Twitch and streams go up on Monday, and then we post everywhere else on Thursdays.
You can follow me at ren.psd and Vannotes on Instagram at vannotesbooks.
You can write into the podcast at yourtrashpals.com. We should also have I forgot to tell you this. We'll have a
Mhm.
Ko-fi going up. So
Oh, so exciting.
if you want to, I just set it up the other day and it'll be going up on our Instagram when this episode goes up. But we'll have a Ko-fi. So if you want to help with our hosting on all the platforms and you want to throw us a few bones, you can do that.
A couple
Um,
bones.
and then to also support the podcast, we have advertisers, fake advertisers. And it's Wren's turn this
It's my
week.
turn. Oh my goodness.
So you aren't in the document, are you?
No.
Okay. Give me a random number between 1 and 10. Oh, I'm here.
Oh no, you froze up for a second.
Oh, I just need a random number in between 1 and 10.
7. That's my favorite number.
You can give an advertisement from remakes.
Remakes. Oh my goodness gracious. Today's episode is sponsored by remakes, specifically the remakes for movies that we don't need. Any Disney movie that has come out in the last 20 years does not need a remake, and yet we have them anyway. They are a gift from Satan himself. They're made to make us feel old and to recognize things have changed and that my dog is sad and he's
He's so
sad about
sad about
remakes
remakes.
too. But yeah, thank you. Today's episode brought to you by remakes. Remakes for movies that we don't need, remakes for movies that we do need, anything and everything. Thank you so much for sponsoring us.
The Chase
Remakes.
soundtrack is so great.
I'm like, please.
All right.
Oh
And
my goodness.
remember
Remember
to reduce,
reuse,
reuse, and
and recycle.
recycle.
Yay!